This is a short revision video on the character of Assef in the Kite Runner. I think he is probably the most interesting character to look at. Although his character arc is pretty flat, he doesn't change much in terms of personality. I think it's just the depth of the evil within him that makes him such an interesting person. And it's interesting to note that the first real reaction that we have to Assef as a character is Amir. He says, "My heart dropped." This is a physical reaction to the presence of Assef, so he's showing he is physically terrified of this Assef character. And we also get a description of him, he towers over the other kids, he's got a reputation, he's quite an evil person. He essentially goes from one evil to the other. He goes from bullying to beating up people to raping Hassan to raping young children, and generally being a paedophile, as well as the leader of the local Taliban. So there is absolutely no change in his character in terms of morality and his belief in religious supremacy. He also, he really likes the idea of ethnic cleaning. That's something, or is it cleansing? Cleansing, ethnic cleansing. He aspires to that, he thinks that's brilliant. He's got this idea within himself that he's better than everyone else. He's a sociopath, that's how he's described in here, and that is essentially who he is. There are three sections of Assef we're going to look at: his aspiring to Nazism, his hatred of Hazaras, such as Hassan in particular, and his general cruel and vicious nature. There's a lot more other areas we could look at, but I've chosen just to look at these three because Assef isn't such a major character. He's quite a big character, but he's not a major one, so the chances of him coming up, I'd say, are smaller, though I think he'd be a very interesting character to write about if he did come up, so I'd probably be quite happy if he came up. But he's not, like, Amir or anything, so there's less to write about him, so those are the areas I've chosen to specify. Straight away we have this physical description of Assef being an Aryan, essentially. He is blonde, he's blue-eyed. That is Nazi ideal. He's got Nazi ideals in his head. He's full of these ideas of religious supremacy. He thinks that Pashtun is the way forward and that Hazara should be wiped out. He aspires towards Hitler. We've got these things here. Hitler, now there was a leader, a great leader, a man with vision. He believes in ethnic cleansing. He thinks, yes, there is only one supreme race that should exist. This is good. He's very, very cruel to Hassan because Hassan is Hazara. In a sense, he believes that this gives him the right to do whatever he likes to Hassan, so that's why he feels he can rape Hassan, because he's only Hazara. I think he might use some words here. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing sinful about teaching a lesson to a disrespectful donkey, and also, here, it's just a Hazara. It's like it's just an animal, it doesn't mean anything. That's essentially Assef's behaviour towards Hassan, and that's his general behaviour towards the whole Hazara race. This is also something he isn't ashamed of. He shares his views with everybody. He was talking about it, I think, at dinner to his mother and people. I think his whole family are terrified of him. At Amir's birthday party, Amir points out that his parents didn't say anything in the conversation. It was just Assef that was speaking, and he had this evil look in his eye, this smile, that, he was so good to the outside world, but in reality he was this evil person. In fact, this is a trait carried by a majority of the characters in here. We've got this followed through in Baba and Amir as well, because Baba to the outside world he's this amazing, well-respected man, but inside he's committed this terrible sin. Same with Amir. Amir's this good boy, very honest. Maybe he isn't the best, looked down upon, but but in reality he watched this sin unfold. He watched his friend get raped and do nothing. It's something that's shared by quite a lot of the characters in the play. But I would say, in general, Assef encapsulates the whole Nazi madness idea. Hosseini said, I regret making him so obviously a Nazi. But I think this whole idea of sociopathic tendencies, his inability to feel remorse, he does not appreciate that what he has done is wrong. In a sense, we could almost feel sympathetic towards him, because he doesn't understand that what he's doing is wrong. So at the start we might think, he's just a boy with a lot of issues, but when it gets to the end and he's raping Sohrab and sexually abusing a load of children, it's this point that we think, no. And the stoning scene as well, he's just there killing someone without thinking. He thinks it's the right thing to do, in his twisted mind. He's calling, this is God's law, not mine, it's what God wants. No, Assef, you're just trying to twist the law to be able to get your own psychopathic tendencies out. It's like John Bunting. I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but he committed the Snowtown murders, and he killed quite a lot of people just saying, they're paedophiles. I'm going to kill them because I'm, supporting the law, I'm trying to help this country. That is essentially what Assef is doing. He is killing a load of people under the pretext that it's the right thing to do, it's what God wants. A theme that comes up quite repeatedly throughout this play, it's not really a theme, it's a word, Babalu, I don't know how it's pronounced, I'm guessing it's something like that. And it's this chant that Assef made up for Ali, because obviously Ali limped. Ali was a Hazara with a flat nose. Ali's face was paralysed. I think his mouth was all paralysed down there. You could say his paralysis of his face, his inability to speak. He speaks a tiny bit, but he doesn't speak a lot, and this is very, foreshadowing of the way Sohrab refuses to speak later on in the novel. I think the second paragraph there is the one that shows the total belief in the hierarchy, I think. Because everybody there believed that Hazaras were beneath Pashtuns, even the Hazaras themselves. There's this scene, the first scene with the conflict between Assef and Hassan, where Hassan says, "Please leave us alone, Aga." And Aga is a word of respect almost. And Amir says, "I wonder briefly what it must be like to live with such an ingrained sense of one's place in a hierarchy." So essentially this whole hierarchy idea is so strong within the community, we could almost forgive Assef for having these strange beliefs. I mean, they're very strange to us, but in that country at that time, from what I know, obviously I could be wrong, but from what's in the book, it seems that everybody had these beliefs. Maybe they weren't quite as strong and as evil as Assef, but everyone had this idea. A lot of people believed that the Hazaras were polluting the society. And we also see why it's Hassan that takes the brunt here, because Assef says we are the true Afghans. I mean, he says we, he's sort of including Amir in that, because Amir is a Pashtun as well. They're all the Pashtuns, and he's saying, we could stand together against this Hazara. It's just a Hazara. Why are you friends with him? Even later on in the book, towards the end, when Amir goes to go rescue Sohrab, I think Assef might say something like, "Why have you come all this way to rescue a Hazara?" To him, a Hazara is like the same way a Jew was in Germany culture back in the day. He thinks it's polluting, he thinks it's dirty, he thinks it's like an animal, he thinks the whole Hazara race are like animals to him. Then we've got that bottom line there, that's his big aim. He wants to be the Hitler of Afghanistan. He wants to rid Afghanistan of all these Hazaras that he believes are so evil. But no matter how sociopathic he was, I mean, obviously some people are born with sociopathic tendencies, psychopathic tendencies. There must have been something to spark off this hatred of Hazaras, and it must have been the way he was brought up. A hatred of a certain race and religion, it's not something you have at birth, it's something that's nurtured. You're nurtured by society to have these beliefs. So here we get this whole idea, the whole of society is twisted in this way, the whole of society has these strange beliefs. And finally, we look at the real cruel and vicious side to Assef. This is the side that is nature, not nurture. This side here, his sociopath there, quote 3. His whole reputation as being savage and cruel. He has these brass knuckle dusters that reappear quite a bit. I mean, they're there at the beginning, they're there at the end. He's earned the name Assef the Ear-Eater there from the second quote after he pummeled a kid unconscious, and then I think he might have ripped his ear off or something and thrown it in the gutter. Maybe that was an exaggeration on Amir's part, but that is the whole reputation of Assef. This is how he is portrayed as being this cruel, vicious character. He's not even human, he's hardly human. I mean, he's a deplorable character, there's nothing worse. I mean, he rapes people, he kills people through stoning, and he is a paedophile. What worse could you be? I mean, try to think of how much worse you could make him. It's very hard to make him worse than he already is. And here we've got the word grinned. He is grinning as he is beating a kid unconscious. That is the key word. He is grinning. He enjoys it. He is a sadist. And sociopathic sadists, they're the most dangerous kind of people. Sociopath is the lack of ability to feel remorse for your actions. And if you're a sadist and you enjoy causing pain in others, or you're not going to feel remorse for it if you're a sociopath too. You're basically, your whole life's aim is going to be to hurt as many people as possible, simply to get, these good feelings. You're a very selfish individual. But because you're a sociopath, you don't see it that way. You simply see it as fulfilling your requirements to make yourself happy through making other people sad. I think there's this one scene towards the end where he's sliding his hands all over Sohrab. That's just paedophilia. He is finding a sexual satisfaction through the abusing of a small child. That is something that, especially our Western society, I mean, obviously Afghanistan society frowns upon it as well, but for a Western reader, you'll look at that. I mean, I suppose all readers everywhere will look at this and they will find it absolutely disgusting. That's the shock factor Hosseini wanted in his book to make it sell. Indeed, this book actually caused much more controversy in Afghanistan than it did over here. They were absolutely disgusted at the way their society was portrayed, and I honestly can't blame them. I remember when they made the film of this, the film is terrible by the way, don't bother watching it. They made the film of this, they had to go rescue, I mean I don't remember, I was hardly alive at that time. They had to go rescue the actors that played Hassan and Amir out of Afghanistan because they were in so much danger from the Taliban and people like that. Again, we have Assef as a member of the Taliban. I mean, I've not got time to write every single thing down, but when you go look at the stoning scene, he's there pretending to be Jesus with his glasses on. We have this massive dramatic irony with Assef. He's being, he's quoted here, his arms spread like those of Jesus on the cross. I mean, that's the idea of sacrifice. Jesus sacrificed himself, and that's a big theme throughout the play, sacrifice. Also, the idea of Assef and Jesus, you put them together, they are total opposites. There is so much more I want to say about Assef, but I really don't have time. I just think Assef is such an interesting character. I mean, he's just so fascinating. I suppose in this modern day and age we do seem to have this fascination with serial killers and stuff like that. There's so many crime documentaries on TV. Turn on the TV, I mean there's crime channels. We have this obsession with crime and murder and vicious stuff like that. I mean we need there to be punishment for this evil person. And we have it through the slingshot to the eye. I mean that's Sohrab there fulfilling Hassan's promise to turn Assef into, one-eyed Assef. We have our satisfaction on all levels. We have our satisfaction because Amir has gained redemption. We have our satisfaction because Assef is punished. I think it's just really interesting. Join us next time for Sohrab, I believe, who is nowhere near as interesting as Assef because he hardly speaks. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.